Howdy, friends. Steve DePoe here with the Rose Realty team with this week's Real Estate Live for North Texas. Inspection versus appraisal. Two very similar activities that occur on a house that's for sale with an offer on it. Two very similar activities, but used for very different things and done by very different people. So let's kind of look at it. So inspection versus appraisal. Both take a look at the inside, the interior and the exterior of the property and the home, but they're done for very different reasons, like I said. Okay, so the home inspection is done. Let's see, after the buyer puts an offer in on a house and that offer is accepted, and you have a signed contract. Now, here in North Texas, we have something called an option period, and usually that option period is somewhere between 3 and 10 days. Okay, and during that option period, it's the buyer's responsibility, with the help of the agent, to get a home inspector to come in and take a look at the house. Now, what the home inspector is going to do is take a look at mechanicals and take a look at walls and wiring and plumbing and the roof, et cetera, to make sure they're in good working order. Because as a layman, as a non-professional, you're not going to have an idea as to whether this outlet, the junctions are reversed, or whether the hot water heater or the HVAC system has reached its useful life, or whether the roof needs to be replaced because of hail damage. Okay, so it's actually one of the most important steps during a home buying process for the buyer and for the seller as well, to be honest with you. And then so for the buyer, the home inspector comes in and makes these inspections. There's something like 1,000 or 1,500 things that the inspector looks at. But now then at that point, once you get the inspection report, it's up to the buyer and the agent with the agent's consultation to determine whether they're going to take the house as is, or whether we're going to ask the seller to make certain concessions or changes or improvements or fixes to the house so that it's kind of up to snuff and up to par. So keep in mind that the inspection is not required, okay, by law in Texas. It's not required. As a matter of fact, in the last year and a half, with some of the crazy offerings and bids that are going on with houses, some people have waived that inspection, figuring, hey, I'll bid 50,000 over, waive the inspection, and be able to fix whatever is wrong with the house. That's not required, but it's actually a good thing to have done so that we know what's going on with the systems in the house and the roof and all those kinds of things. The appraisal is something that once we get past that option period and the buyer is applying for a mortgage, okay, or a loan on the house, usually typically what happens is then the lender or the bank then requires or orders an appraisal. What that appraisal does, it takes into consideration the condition of the house, where the house is, the school system, the location, all that kind of stuff. And they kind of do this assessment of how much the house is worth. So if you're offering, again, some fake numbers, if you're offering 500, but the appraisal comes in at at 450, okay, the lender's not going to give you $500,000 because they expect if something negative would have happened to the buyer, lose their job, go bankrupt, whatever. They want to be able to sell the house and get their money out of it. So if they're going to lend you 500, they got to know that the house is worth at least 500, so they think they can get out what they put in. The appraisals are typically, like I said, required by the lender. You take into consideration the house, the neighborhood, the school district, comparable homes in the area. Typically, what I'll do is when one of my clients puts an offer in on a house, I'll do a CMA, a comparative market analysis, and say, hey, here's what this house is worth compared to other houses, and then I'll turn that information over to the appraiser, so the appraiser has sort of a baseline of how my client made that decision of what to offer, and then they can based on the condition of the house, the school district, the neighborhood, et cetera, what the value of that house is. So two very different things, two very different approaches and used for two very different reasons. Hope that kind of explained a few things for you. Next week, how to neutralize your home. And we're not talking about a mob hit here, okay? We're talking about how to kind of neutralize your home so it's appealing to the widest audience. This is Steve DePaul with the Rose Realty team. I'm going to bounce.